I think the main guideline that I had when I was writing my book, How Elite States the Social Justice Movement, was to say that anything that we have a moral duty to do, we have a moral duty to do well. If we say we have a moral duty to confront police violence against black people, we have to actually do something about them. In 2020, we were told that we were in a new moment, that the George Floyd protests, this was something that was going to change the world. I look at that moment from the benefit of a few years in the future, and the world doesn't seem very changed. And the problem is I think a lot of people got so caught up in their duty to oppose that they didn't actually ask themselves, what's the best way to go about doing this? This is a problem that's exacerbated in the internet era, the Instagram era, where appearing to do something is often for many people the most important part. Well, I would argue that the reason that we need to organize around class lines rather than around traditional identity categories like race, gender, or ethnicity, religion, etc., is that there's a math problem when you do really identity-focused politics, which is to say that minority groups are minorities. They are a smaller part of the voting bloc. And so whenever you say, we're going to organize around these lines, you're inevitably shrinking the potential size of your coalition. But the size of the coalition that's based on economic class is potentially massive. People who struggle to pay the rent, people who just one way or the other can't make ends meet. That is an immense coalition that can be brought together. And the really important thing to say is they can work together even if there are differences between them in other areas of politics, because they have this shared self-interest in creating a system that is much more generous to the people at the bottom at the expense of people at the top. We on the left should not be afraid of talking about self-interest. Karl Marx, for example, is someone who was very clear that politics starts with self-interest. One of the failures of progressive movements of the past several decades is that they're often based on appeals to abstract ideals of justice. But we know for a fact from history that that's not what gets people out of bed to go and organize. What gets people out of bed is to say, my life could be better. Your life could be better. If we work together, we'll be more powerful, and we don't have to be best friends to do it. It's important to recognize that conservatism and the powers that be have really fundamental, baked-in advantages that we on the left, the progressives, the social justice movement, etc., we don't have those advantages. The first one is simply that conservatism wins when nothing changes. For the left, progressives, etc., we need change to occur, active change in the world. And it's always harder to create change than it is to defend the status quo. But the other reality is that rich, powerful people have the money and the power by definition. The only tool the left ultimately has, the only tool, is people power. Our inherent advantage is that there are many more people who have stress over money, who can't seem to make ends meet, who work and work and work, and they never seem to get ahead. If we don't look for lines of connection across difference, then we're never going to be able to build a big enough coalition. I think social movements become stronger when you tell them what you have done for them, when you are very clear about this is what we've accomplished and this is how it helps you. During the 2016 presidential campaign, the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign on their official Twitter released a word cloud about intersectionality and a tweet that I found quite incomprehensible about how multiple identities overlap. People are not moved by very abstract concepts in politics of intersectionality or of anything else. What they're moved by is, how does this political party, this political leader, how do they help me? Democrats, for whatever reason, tend to be really lousy at this. The child tax credit, that was expansion that happened for a single year, was rolled into part of the COVID relief bills, had the potential to cut black poverty by a third in and of itself by that program. If I walked down the street here in Manhattan and I stopped 100 people and asked them how many of them knew that this child tax credit expansion had happened, I'm sure the percentage would be very low. You have to tell people, here is a thing that I am doing, or here is a thing that I want to do and how it will benefit your life.